Hello from CNN London. I'm Monita Rajpal. This is World Report. 2 attacks, 2 different responses. Grief and shock in one nation. Americans mourn the death after a gunman tried to kill U.S. Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords and took the lives of 6 other people in Arizona on Saturday. In Pakistan, thousands of demonstrators marched in the streets of Karachi. Many of them expressed support for the man suspected of killing the governor of Punjab province last week. Salman Taseer had spoken out against the blasphemy law. Well, people all over the United States will be watching events in Phoenix, Arizona later today as Americans mourn the dead. The 22-year-old suspect in the Tucson tragedy is due to appear in court for the first time. Well, the Congresswoman's intern, Daniel Hernandez, says he rushed towards Giffords and used his hands to apply pressure to her gunshot wound. Earlier, CNN's Dr. Sanjay Gupta talked to John King about her treatment once she got to the hospital. Arizona is sparking outrage in the U.S., but in Pakistan, a gunman who shot to death the governor of Punjab province is getting widespread public support. The victim, Salman Taseer, had openly opposed Pakistan's blasphemy laws. His wife, son and daughters spoke about the irony exposed by his assassination in an exclusive interview with CNN's Chris Lawrence. Weather in Iran is hampering efforts to reach the victims of a deadly plane crash. At least 72 people were killed when a passenger jet belonging to Iran Air tried to make an emergency landing. The weather have contributed to the crash. We want to go now to Mari Ramos at the World Weather Center with more details on the conditions at the time of the crash. Mari.
Yeah, it was definitely some pretty nasty weather at the time that plane
Mari, thank you for that. Sure. In southern Sudan, voting in the independence referendum got off to a smooth start. Election observers say people waited patiently for hours before the polls opened on Sunday. The week-long vote will decide whether the South should declare independence from the North or stay as part. David McKenzie in southern Sudan and Juba, thank you so much for that. Still to come, a devastated nation, an outpouring of aid, a promise to rebuild. A year after an earthquake brought destruction to Haiti, we go back to see what's actually changed. This week marks 1 year since a devastating earthquake hit Haiti. It was just the beginning of a disastrous year for the Caribbean nation. We saw a huge international rescue and medical response to the quake, but obstacles still remain, like for this girl just trying to collect clean water. A lack of drinkable water led to an outbreak of cholera a few months after the earthquake. These orphan children are being treated for the infection. More than 3,000 people have died from cholera so far. What took years to build came tumbling down in just 35 terrifying seconds. This is now the changing room for priests during their weekly Sunday service outside the destroyed cathedral in Port-au-Prince. Now, the earthquake triggered one of the most complex humanitarian and reconstruction efforts ever mounted by the international aid community. Up to now, it seems that much of the country has failed to emerge from the shambles. They're gripping parts of India has turned deadly. And as Sarah Seidner shows us, some of the country's most vulnerable people are being left out in the cold.
For India's poor.
Well, let's check back in with Mari Ramos at the World Weather Center to see if there is any let up in the cold gripping India and parts of the United States. Mari.
Hey, Monita, a really tragic story there from Sarah. What a sad situation for so many people there.
All right, Mari, thank you very much for that. I'm Monita Rajpal in London. World Sport is next. We want to leave you now with some more pictures from Atlanta, downtown Atlanta, Centennial Park, to see more of that unexpected snow.